Hello YouTube, in this video I'm going to be talking about whether you should be wearing socks with or without spikes if you want to increase your sprint performance. Now, this is a bit of a kind of less important question. If you shouldn't really need to ask because it's more down to personal preference. However, I will go over the benefits of wearing socks with or without spikes. So first of all, if you ever wore spikes, you've owned spikes, then you'd understand that spikes are very close to your feet. They're basically a very tight fit, and some spikes come with these insoles that function a format similar to socks. So if you were to go with no socks, you basically just feel like you're wearing just shoes but without any socks. But the problem is, because of the, well, not really a problem, but because of the way spikes are designed, it would kind of feel more like you're barefoot but you're not going to slip. If you ever sprinted barefoot on a track, I would recommend it. It's quite fun. Then you'd understand that after a while you would get sweaty and you're going to slip. But when you're doing it, you probably feel your fastest. It's quite comfortable. Your body is able to quickly adapt to the changes because your feet are free to move however they want. Not just the entire foot, but just the feet and individual toes themselves. They're actually free to move in a fashion that's comfortable for them, adjust to sprinting, which they rarely get to do because most of the time you're wearing shoes and these kind of change the way your feet has to behave. And wearing spikes would be in a similar format. The only problem is, because the shoes are small and really tight on the top, your feet are kind of smudged together. So this could cause blisters if the shoe is too tight. Obviously, you could probably get customized shoes or just wear socks, or just get a size up, to be honest. But because you want your shoes to be tight so they're not flipping around and you don't have to worry about your energy being dispersed because your shoe's too big. I had that problem last season because I wore middle distance spikes that were 2 sizes too big. I don't know where I was going with that. They didn't even have 8 spikes, they had like 5. But problems like that, you don't want that to occur when you're sprinting. You want to obviously not have to think that your performance whilst you're sprinting is going to be due to your shoes. You want your performance to be either good or poor because of your own abilities, not the shoe itself. Now, if you were to go with socks, obviously you wouldn't have to worry about any blisters, but you probably wouldn't feel as fast when you're wearing the shoes. Though you might, it's really down to personal preference. You might actually feel just as fast if you're wearing socks. But if you're blister prone, wearing socks would probably be a good idea. To be honest, depending on how thick the socks are, there isn't much of a difference between how your foot feels in the shoe. As long as they're not extremely thick, your foot is going to fit in. Obviously, the spikes are almost a perfect fit, and if they are, they should be. So you want to make sure you get thin socks, sorry. There are also performance specific socks that are literally very thin socks that don't really impede your performance. So if you do if you do go sockless, or you want to go sockless but you do get blisters, you could look into buying one of those socks, because if you really want to just have that nice, comfortable, easy feeling without any friction from the socks, if it does even generate any at all, then wearing these thin socks, if you really do need to wear socks, would be good. And other than that, it's really just down to personal preference, purely because in the grand scheme of things, wearing socks or not wearing socks probably isn't really going to change your sprint times too much, if it does at all, unless you was wearing, like last season, you was wearing extremely thick socks, sorry. Maybe your shoes were too big for various other reasons. Usually it's not so much the socks themselves, but the actual spikes, not the performance abilities of the spike, but how you bought the spike. Because if you bought the spike and it was too big, or it's not for your specific distance, then obviously that's going to be a problem. For example, I run 1, 2 and 400 meters, so my spikes are designed to be like that. But if I was just running 100 meters, then considering the fact that these spikes can support up to 400, which means they're basically specialized for 400, that these wouldn't really be the spikes that I want to use, because the performance would be slightly different. Then if these were the wrong size, then you've got even more problems. But other than that, it's really just a small question that shouldn't really be that big of a problem. Just decide whether you actually want to wear socks or don't. If you do, if you do, then do wear socks. If you've never not gone without socks, it'd be worth a shot trying to sprint without any socks, just to see how it feels, because it feels quite good, in my opinion, my personal opinion. obviously not a professional, so I can't really determine whether this would be good for you, or I haven't even seen your feet, and even if I did, I wouldn't know if it would. But if you do consider going sockless, do first of all try it out, see how it feels. Also try barefoot before you even try going sockless, and see how your body adapts to that, because when you're barefoot your feet are free and it's really easy for you to just do what you want. The only problem is, depending on the shoe you have, if you was to wear socks, if you were to not wear socks, sorry, what would happen is, as your foot sweats, it's obviously going to disperse out of the shoe. But if you have shoes like this that aren't very breathable, your feet are going to get really, your shoes are going to get really smelly. And if the shoe's like just like the smallest bit off, what might end up happening is, when you're sprinting, say this is my foot and it's in the shoe, my foot's really sweaty, now my shoe's really sweaty, and the shoe size is like slightly off, it's like 0.5 too big for me. What might end up happening is your foot might slip in the shoe and then you'll sprint. And what will end up happening is, you won't just slip and then sprint, you'll slip in the shoe and then you'll actually slip. And obviously that will hamper your performance. So if you have shoes that are like slightly too big and your feet sweat quite easily, maybe it would be quite smart to just wear socks instead. Or just see if you can control your feet if you really want to go sockless, or just invest in the really thin performance socks that you won't even feel on your feet. Other than that, like the video if you like the video. If you have any questions, put those down into the comments. If you like my content, do subscribe. And generally I usually have something that I didn't remember to put in the video in my description, so do go check that out. Any video suggestions that you have for me, do put those into the comments. I see all of your comments, so I will go and respond to all of them as long as it's a question. And yeah, that's me.